Well, hello. Welcome to the Rogues Gallery. That last episode got a little hairy, or feathery, because for some reason that dinosaur had feathers and I don't. We're going to be changing the tempo a little bit with a slightly less murderous villain. All the way from North Muscaloosa County, we have the Branch Manager. A villain so boring he literally has to talk to plants. I don't know. Maybe I'll just tell them to take me back to prison. At least we got outdoors time there. Anyways, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Listen well, Midway. Listen well.
Well, it's interesting that you should ask that. The banjo is actually considered one of the most hated instruments in the world, which not a lot of musicians can claim. People find the tone incredibly... what's the opposite of arousing? It's not the instrument of the provocateur, I guess you could say. It's the instrument of a man of nothing left to lose, which is one of the reasons it's so divisive.
Quite so. And I'm told the murder rate of banjo players is 12 times the national average. Is that correct?
Absolutely not. Those numbers are from a census question from 2010. Quote, how many banjo players do you murder annually? Today, banjo players are murdered much closer to 16 times the national average.
Excellent. Thank you, banjo historian Clem Premble-Scott, for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me on, Peter.
Also, thank you to program editor Karen Butterfield for censoring out all of the banjo playing from today's episode. She's expected out of the hospital later this weekend with only a minor brain hemorrhage. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Next week, we'll have oud virtuoso Abbas Hassan on the show to talk about his struggle to find anywhere that sells oud strings. We'll also have Carl Bingham, a man who claims to have invented a new guitar chord. I'm your host, Peter Hoffminster, and this has been String Theory. Keep that dial right here on WMIC, Midway's Public Radio.
Greetings, Gallery Jacks! It's your old pal Frequency here with another exciting episode of the Rogues Gallery. And next to me, the guy everyone loves to hate, Fugitive Color.
You know, I'll take it. Better to be hated than be whatever you are.
Well hung. So let's dive right in, starting with everyone's favorite segment, the music of the day!
No.
All right. The producer's giving me the old cut sign, and our police escorts are giving me the old gun sign, so I guess we'll skip the music segment for today and go straight into Midway News highlights.
The Midway City Police Chief is now reporting that the recent power outage, initially thought to be the work of local darkness enthusiast Deadly Lampshade, was actually the result of an explosion at the Midway Power Plant substation. Crews from the power plant were all hard at work during the time of the explosion, so police are urging residents to report any bioluminescent beings with newly discovered superpowers.
Traffic update, Midwaylians. Black ice is all over the roads and cars are piling up in the devastation left behind from the drunk driving that is all too familiar from the African-American supervillain. Marking the 4th time this month that the evildoer has been apprehended for being inebriated behind the wheel, he once again has given the old Midway Police Department the cold shoulder as he slipped out of their grasp and back onto the snowy roads. Stay safe out there.
More information now on the WMIC news helicopter crash reported on in our last episode. The crash site has been discovered in Tel Aviv Community Park by a group of children who were playing in the Thurston Tel Aviv Wi-Fi Memorial Garden. The still smoldering remains of the pilot were in the seat of the vessel, posing for several photographs with the children before being discovered by their parents. Still missing, however, is weather reporter Kelsey Sleet, whose last known location was aboard the vessel before the crash. If you have any information about Ms. Sleet or the location of her remains, please contact the Midway Sheriff's Department or scream as loudly as you can, mouth agape in horror at the ghastly sight before you.
Popular superhero Man-Strong, Man of Strength, is in the news for his recent visit to St. Stamos Children's Hospital. During what was supposed to be a morale-lifting meet and greet, Dr. Havoc was able to sneak into the hospital and launch an all-out assault on the superhero. 32 children were killed in the ensuing battle, including 6 cancer kids, 8 coma kids, 2 measles kids, and 1 kid with marbles up his nose. Nobody's too torn up about it, though, because most of those kids probably weren't going to make it anyway.
Finally, this week's robbing of the New Fortune Bank was carried out by Crimson Claw, Scourge of Man and Devourer of Light. Do I really have to read all of this? Bastard son of night, tormentor of the innocent, keeper of madness, purveyor of misfortune. I mean, it just goes on like this. Police arrived and arrested him halfway through his introduction. It took them 45 minutes to fill out the known aliases portion of his arrest report. Better luck next time, Crimson Claw.
Now, our guest today is a man few people in Midway are probably familiar with. He's a supervillain, technically, but has almost no criminal record we were able to uncover. His most serious crime in the last year was illegally planting ficus on public property? WMIC seems to think he'll be an excellent example of how supervillainy isn't always as glamorous as it may seem from the outside. Welcome, New Fortune Bank manager and member of the MCPD's least wanted, the branch manager.
Well, first of all, my mother, God rest her soul, graced me with the name Terry Finkhouse. So, please, you can call me Terry.
Okay, Terry. Well, we're very sorry for your loss.
Oh, well, what loss are you talking about there, boys?
Oh, I just thought...
Oh, don't you worry about it.
Well, Terry, tell us a little bit about your life as a supervillain.
Well, there's more to me than just being a supervillain. I'm not just the branch manager. I'm also a branch manager. That's really what comes first. You know, it takes a lot of focus to manage a bank that the Midway Vigilant once called still open. The supervillain thing is more of a moonlight gig. But, you know, I have the power to control any plant I come across. And that can range from, let's say a ficus to, a fern, or even this little guy I brought along here. They call this little guy the Chlorophytum comosum.
Wait a second. I'm sorry. This is actually the female of the species. Well, that was quite rude of me, wasn't it? And, wow, she really seems to like you.
What in the fresh hell do you mean that she likes me?
Well, you see, it's probably actually because of all that foliage growing out of the top of your head there. Why, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you were half spider plant on your father's side.
I don't know what you're implying, but I know I've melted people's faces for less. I mean, I know I do seem to have a certain appeal when it comes to the fairer sex, but there is absolutely no way I am entertaining the idea of this plant getting fresh with me.
Oh, spare us your braggadocio. You can't be in a room longer than 5 minutes before he starts telling you his ridiculous conquests. I mean, he's not even that attractive. He looks like Iggy Pop f***ed a troll doll.
Oh, she don't mean nothing by it at all. She'll drape herself over anything with a stamen these days.
So you just carry this plant around with you?
Sure do. I mean, I have control over plants, but that's no good if I don't have a plant. And I'd like to point out, this little lady is a rescue. I brought her home from the bank with me a few weeks ago. What with all the robberies and explosions and whatnot over there, it's just no environment for a gentle perennial.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I always wondered, how does the New Fortune Bank stay open? It's robbed almost daily by Midway's cavalcade of masked reprobates.
Oh, we still do okay. We're FDIC insured, up to $5 million, and there's only ever about $8,000 in the vault, so it's not too big a loss day to day. Plus, those guys, they usually get caught, so legal annuities cover the repair bills and then some. Between our insurance and the money we get from suing supervillains, we actually end up making money from being robbed so much. I took a bonus last quarter.
Hear that, folks? Supervillains help the economy. Let's keep those bank robbings rolling. For the children.
I'm sure our listeners are fascinated by the comings and goings of their local financial institutions, but let's get back to the supervillain aspect of your life. How did you gain your control over Flora?
Well, if you want to know how I came across these powers of mine, I guess it all starts back in the old town. There I was, driving the tractor, bringing the rye crop in, and, Bob Koch, he happened to have given me some experimental fertilizer.
Now, Bob, he's so tall, probably about 6'5", Bob is, and he's always got these crazy schemes. This one time, he got this meat he told me was bison, but I tried some of that, and I tell ya, I think it was shrimp. Some people, they really like shrimp, but I just never have been a fan myself.
Where I'm from, we get even better than that. Some kind of lake trout or, maybe a little brookie, and grab yourself a pan and, you'll have yourself some seafood better than you'll find in any shrimp in Florida or Louisiana, wherever you catch those gosh darn little suckers. But, Bob,
You were saying about that experimental fertilizer?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forget I'm on the radio. I'm sure that you guys have yourself a sort of different pace in your big city media show. Anyways, I was spreading out that there experimental fertilizer when the tractor got stuck in a bit of a rut. I got out to check what the problem was, but wouldn't you know it, I had a nasty cut from cleaning the fresh carcass I shot the night before, and, well, I took him with a muzzle loader. 50 yards, let me tell you, he was running, and that one thought he was going to get away. Well, as soon as I got my hands on that there fertilizer to get my tractor going again, I started noticing my thumb was swelling up and turning a nifty old shade of green. And so when people ask me why I like plants so much, that's why I have to say I have a green thumb. Well, it looks like somebody already told you. Well, geez, fellas, I thought if you already know my story, then why did you bring me on the show?
I'm really starting to wonder that myself.
Well, okay, that was certainly a banal origin story. Maybe there's more dirt in your day-to-day life of villainy?
Oh yeah, I get up to all kinds of mischief after the sun sets on Midway. Last year's prize pumpkin at the county fair? That there was old Terry's. I tell you now, a little more than just fertilizer was used to get 'em that big. You don't get yourself a 400-pound squash without a few tricks up your sleeve. Oh, and another thing. I just can't stand it when I see freshly cut grass. Grass, it wants to grow long. It wants to propagate itself and go to seed, So whenever I pass by a house who's mangled their poor lawn, well, I just can't stand that. I grow it out to a healthy, well, depends on the type of grass, I suppose. Some like to be around 2 or 3 feet, while others can get up to a way around 4. It really seems to rub people the wrong way, though, when I grow their grass like that. I keep seeing fines on their doors for overgrown grass, but, they gosh darn deserve it for what they were doing to their beautiful vegetation. Sometimes, I'm indoors and I can't find any plants in sight. Well, that just won't do, so I carry this here spider plant just so I can have a partner in crime. I can grow her to whatever length I need and use her to do anything from tickle the police for a clean getaway to, make a living spider plant out of the plantlets and go and unlock a door for me. Maybe just give someone a good old spook.
So, what would you say is your idiom, so to speak? Why be a villain at all if you only use your powers for unscheduled lawn maintenance and some deceitful blue ribbon theft?
Well, they call me the branch manager for a reason, fellas. I guess I just felt inspired by all those bad guys always robbing from the banks I manage. They're really getting out there and taking what's theirs. So I figured, hey, why not use my powers for what I want to do? And I can't very well rob the bank on account I'd lose my job lickety-split. But money isn't happiness, fellas, so I pursued some of my own interests, namely my garden.
Now we're getting somewhere. The garden of a man who has control over plants. It must be a botanist's dream. Let's hear some more about that.
Oh, you fellas don't want to hear about that stuff. I don't want to scare you off with stories from old Terry Finkhouse's garden.
Please, you couldn't bore us any more than you already have. Let's hear it.
Well, okay, if you insist. I got a half acre up there at the cabin up north in the old town, and I like to go hunting and whatnot up there on the weekends. I bring my prizes back there to spruce the place up a bit.
It sounds lovely, but I think we'd really like to hear more about the garden.
Well, I'm telling you about the garden if you let me get to it.
My apologies. No more interruptions.
Oh, okay. As I was saying, I like to take my kills back and display 'em real nice. Skin 'em up and make clothes and lampshades and whatnot out of the skins. Give the place somewhat of a northern charm, And then I like to keep the heads and bones and whatnot and sort of arrange 'em around the place. I end up freezing a lot of the meat since it's more than I can eat all at once by myself, and the rest I grind up in the wood chipper to feed to my plants. Keep a few different species of plants up there, of course. You know, the creepers I use a lot when I'm hunting. They make real good snares. They can bring down a good 250-pound man with one of those around the ankle, I'll tell you what.
Or deer, I assume?
I guess you could use it for deer too, yeah. Hadn't thought of that.
Well, if not deer, what have you been talking about this whole time?
Well, people, what did you guys think we were talking about? I mean, I'm a supervillain here, fellas. I use my powers primarily to hunt people.
So, the bones? The skins? You make clothing out of people? Good God, the meat?
Sure. I mean, you don't know easy living till you've had a bowl of my special stew and a cozy set of manjamas.
Jesus, who are you, Ed Gein? Why have we just been talking about plants and banks this whole time?
Well, geesh, I thought that's what you fellas wanted to talk about.
But we thought your powers, your control over plants.
Oh, sure, the plant control helps, but the powers do not make the villain, boys. Don't think they ever do. I've been doing this since long before I got my powers.
I can't believe this. You're not a supervillain, you're Robert fucking Hansen. I mean, I like a little mayhem and destruction, but you hunt people, man!
Well, like I said, it's just a nights and weekends thing. Everybody needs a hobby.
What?
What will your dear mother think when she finds out about this?
Well, I told you, boys, my mother is dead.
Well, now I'm confused. First you said, God rest her soul. Then you said she didn't die. Now she did again?
Well, I never said she didn't die. I just said it wasn't a loss. No, she was my first. I cut her head off with a can opener and ate her brain while it was still warm. Well, this is off the record, right, fellas?
What? No, absolutely not. This is live, on the radio. This whole thing has been live.
Oh boy, is that true? I might have said a little bit too much. I mean, I can't lose my job at the bank, fellas. I'm only 6 months away from owning my Camry.
Sadly, it's true. And there's no getting out of the studio without going through a battalion of armed guards. Trust me, I've tried. So, branch manager, it's been...
It certainly has been.
Well, I guess I'll see you boys out there fighting the good fight. Let me know whenever you're on the outskirts of Muscaloosa County. And you can swing by the garden and see for yourself. She's a real beauty. If you ever feel like stopping by the bank, tell him old Terry sent ya!
This is WMIC, Midway's public radio station. Support for this program comes from...
Special Televiz cable announcement. As part of a limited time switch and save offer, if you drop service with your current provider, you'll receive 6 months of free entry into Televiz Cable Community Park. Offer does not include additional costs such as slide tickets, merry-go-round entry, seesaw handles, or basketball court keys. Please contact a Televiz Cable representative for more information. Wait time for Televiz Cable representatives to be up to 12 hours GMT.
Terry Finkhouse, dear listeners, has been escorted from the station by armed guards. His shocking admission of manhunting, as well as the lesser crimes of man-skinning and man-boning, will no doubt be in all the newspapers tomorrow. But you heard it here first, on the Rogues Gallery. This may be the first time I've felt something akin to pride or even interest in this program. There's a fine line between supervillain and serial killer, and Terrence Finkhouse uses that line like a jump rope. I'm sure this isn't the last we've heard from the branch manager.
Yeah, probably not, because he left his weird damn plant here and it keeps stroking me with its longer leaves.
She keeps stroking you.
Ugh, come on, man.
Time once more to hear from you, citizens of Midway. We'll be taking your questions on the air in a little segment we're being forced to call Ask the Rogues. First caller, you are on the air with the Rogues Gallery.
You guys seem to disagree on a lot of stuff, so I thought I'd ask you what your politics are. Do supervillains even follow political news?
I suppose I'm what you'd call an independent moderate. Fiscal liberal, social conservative.
As for me, anarchy!
What's your favorite pizza topping? That question's for both of you.
I generally refuse something so pedestrian as pizza, with one notable exception: shark fin. It's very difficult to cook properly, and most places hang up on you when you order it. But when executed correctly, it is absolute serenity.
I'm more of a simple pepperoni guy myself.
Pepperoni? Are you truly the living manifestation of lowest common denominators? Your plebeian propensities are a mockery to everything the civilized world stands for. Pepperoni! Have you not lived, sir? Is there not a bone in your body that craves the majesties of this world beyond craft dinners and televised singing competitions?
Ha! Everyone knows televised singing competitions are totally bogus. Those things are completely rigged. Trust me, I would know. I was hired to rig the outcome of American Song Hero competition Very Good Singing.
I can't say I'm familiar.
Yeah, it only aired in North Korean hotels. Most of the contestants were just Kim Jong-il wearing different hats, so, what were we talking about?
Your lack of sophistication. Not
Pepperoni is not unsophisticated.
You just ended a sentence
it's
with
a
a preposition,
careful combination
which
of
I'm
delicious,
sure I don't have
mechanically
to tell you
separated
is
animal
absolutely
parts
incorrect.
and a variety of herbs and
wait,
spices.
Of course I have to tell you.
Only wangs eat shark fin.
You're an idiot.
Next caller.
Hi, this is Midian, with a question for frequency, although you both can answer it if you want to. And my question is, all of the greatest villains, from The Laughing Man to Dr. Discord, have really enrapturing backstories that lead to them becoming supervillains. What is yours? Thanks, bye. Shout out to my homegirl Cricket.
I think in my heart of hearts, I always knew. I always had an affinity for the ne'er-do-well as a young man. I always found the villain's plight relatable. So motivated, so passionate, so driven. And yet, despite always being more prepared and more ambitious, some snot-nosed upstart would always stand in the way of their true glory. As I grew older, I started to see myself in these villains. Not only was my fashion sense impeccable, but I always understood the feeling of being under the world's thumb, and more importantly, the feeling of discontent that came from it. The moment that really shaped me, however, was when I first entered adulthood. I had been acting as a producer for some time, and it was my first real gig. I had been preparing my whole life for this moment. The hype music began, the crowd was at full attention, and I gracefully began my walk towards the station. As I walked out from the curtain that framed the stage, I was greeted with a thunderous applause. These people, they were here to see me! I had seen this moment before, only in the kindest of dreams. I struck a pose, always one for showmanship, and at that exact moment, a hero tumbled from the sky and crashed right through the ceiling. The crowd began to panic as laser vision burst from the eyes of the downward spiral of heroism that had so wantonly crashed my party. Fortunately for my adoring fans, no one was hurt. Unfortunately for me, the laser vision managed to claim one victim as it descended upon my vinyl pants and melted them clean off. The hero smashed into a wall, gracelessly bounced off, and shot through the roof again to continue his battle. The crowd was frozen in awe. Until, of course, they turned their eyes back up at the stage to see me in full stage attire sans pants. Their screams of panic had been silenced and then replaced with uproarious laughter. My dream shattered. These people were supposed to love me, and here they were making a mockery of my moment. I was nothing more than a bad joke. The crowd dispersed, leaving me as the last occupant of the room, trying to continue playing as if nothing had ever happened. But it did happen. The hero, once and always, a thorn in the side of people who just want to succeed at their own life's journey. I swore from that day on I would devote myself to destroying them and all they hold dear. I would make a mockery out of every moment they held precious, the same way that they did to me. I wouldn't rest until the world sees them half naked and ashamed, laughing as they see what a fool their gods and goddesses truly are. And then to exact revenge on all those who left me when I needed them most. This whole world is guilty of the villains it produces, and I will make them see just before I set them ablaze with the fires of 1,000 hells! So, yeah, that's basically my story.
And quite a story it was. That was an act I don't think I could follow. Nor, in fact, does it seem I have time to, because once again, dear listeners, we must take our leave of you. Until next time, remember always to live like it is your last day on Earth, because with people like us around, it very much may be. I am Fugitive Color, and he is Frequency. Together, for better or worse, we are the Rogues Gallery, and you are listening to WMIC, Midway's Public Radio.
The Rogues Gallery is a production of WMIC Radio. The Rogues Gallery is written, hosted, and produced by Josh Danforth and Colin Wilson. We'd like to thank Ryan Hunt for his appearance in this episode. Log on to www.roguesgallerypod.com to hear more episodes, get special extras, and learn more about the villains, including this week's special featured villain, the Branch Manager. Thanks for listening.
As well as the lesser crimes of man-skinning and man-boning, will no doubt be in all the newspapers. Are you laughing at man-boning?
Yeah.